What's up, everybody? Here we are. We're about to do this Star Wars composite in Photoshop, and we're going to be using some of our Star Wars Galaxy's Edge stock images to create this composite. So really excited to get into this. So yeah, let's do it. This is some of my images of Jake here as our Master Jedi here with his green lightsaber, and so I've already kind of picked out my favorite shot here. So this is, I think, what we're going to go with. So let's do this. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is take this image and drag it into Photoshop like so. Should pop up our little camera raw settings and everything. I think I'm pretty much just going to keep it the way it is. I think I may have increased the sharpening to like 80% or so, and that was really about it. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit open, and there we are, and we're done. Just kidding. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this. See if there's anything that we want to kind of fix up with it. I shot this at a really low shutter speed so that we could get the glow of the green lightsaber really nice. So yeah, I think for the most part I'm probably going to keep it like that, and I think we're just going to go into our retouching. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do high frequency separation for retouching. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this layer twice. So I just hit Control J to duplicate those layers. I can't speak today. Blah, blah, blah. Duplicate those layers, and let's see. This first one, we'll just call it color. This second one we'll call details. Apparently I can't spell either. So, all right, this layer we're going to blur. Go to filter, go to blur, Gaussian blur. May only blur at like 6% or so, just enough to blur the details. Going to go up to layers. Details here, and then go up to layer and go. Oop, just kidding, not layer. Image. You want to go to image. Image. Hit apply image, and then go to layer here. Layer was in there somewhere, and then go down to color. Click OK. We're going to change this blending mode over to subtract. Keep those settings the same. Go ahead and hit OK. And now we're going to go with this details layer selected. We're going to click on our color blending options, blending mode, and go to linear light. There we go. Awesome. So now we have like our single layer with details. You can see the fine details there. And we have our color layer. So on this color layer, I'm just gonna deselected the details for a moment. I'm gonna go in real close, and I'm going to do little things like get rid of some of these little transitions, shadows, and highlights. So what I think I might do is pull up my lasso tool. You can just hit the L hotkey if Photoshop wants to behave. Okay, apparently it does not. So we're going to go, yeah, right there to L, the lasso tool. And I think I have my feather radius set to like 10 pixels or so. So I'm going to keep it there. And I'm just going to circle little areas like this and hit Control Alt F. Why? Because that is the hotkey to reapply that 6% or 6 pixel Gaussian blur. So basically I'm just reapplying that Gaussian blur. Circle this little area right here where that little dot is, kind of blur that out just a tiny bit. And there's lots of ways you could do this. You could do it this way, you could do it with like the mixer brush. This just seems like a quick way to do it since I'm already kind of here and there's not a whole lot that needs to be corrected in my eyes, at least. Just kind of smoothing out some transitions between highlight and shadow. And see, it's a subtle difference, But let's look at the original, and now look at what we've done. Back to the original, back to what we've done. You can just kind of see it's a little bit smoother here in the face. And then for details, we can go in real close. And one thing that I really like to do is to add a black and white layer. One, so you're not looking at all the different colors. You're just kind of focusing on the details between highlight and shadow. And then you can throw in a curves layer. And really, you can do one of two things. You can play with the presets up here, or you can play with, you know, the highlights and shadows, and really kind of playing with it to where you can really see those fine details even better. But before I even do any of that, I'm going to play around with the presets first. So let's go to, whoops, just kidding. Let's not do that. Let's, well, I might play around with that for a moment. You can do it this way, or you can go to the black and white layer, and you can play with these presets. That's usually what I've done in the past. Just kind of see, like, that high contrast blue filter really makes some of those imperfections in the skin pop out a little bit more. You could do something like that, and then, you know, play with the contrast even more if you wanted to, like really bump up highlights, shadows, midtones, really get all that stuff kind of showing up. And the reason why you want to do that is because, like I said, you can see those imperfections even more. So you can do one of two things. You can use your clone stamp tool like I'm about to do at 100% hardness. You can play around with the size and start sampling from good skin, paint over the unwanted areas. You can do it like that, or you can do some local dodging and burning. So I might do a little bit of both to kind of show you what that's like. And granted, some of these are, you know, moles. They're not like pimples or anything that we necessarily have to get rid of. Just kind of want to show you the technique. Sometimes I do it just to say that I did it, you know. Feels like I'm skipping something if I don't try to do at least some retouching. And since he doesn't really have a whole lot of bumps, you might want to, you know, kind of turn it on and off just to kind of really get a good look at stuff. So let's just say that we're good there, and let's go into our local dodging and burning. Local and dodging and burning, the best way I do that is, now this is local, not global. Global is where we'll do a little bit more highlights and shadows on a bigger level. I'll show you that in a second. So local dodging and burning is basically just lightening shadows and darkening highlights to where, again, you get a smoother transition between skin tones. So let's go pull up a curves layer. We're going to adjust the midtones up a little bit like this. And I'm going to hit Control I to hide that. We're going to call that D for dodge. Click on another curves layer, drag the midtones down a little bit, Control I to hide it. We're going to call that B for burn. And we might as well go ahead and group these. So let's go ahead and highlight both. I'm going to hold the Shift key down and click on that so it highlights both of them. Hit Control G to make it a group. If you're on a Mac, it'd be Command, yeah. So Control G, and I'm just going to label that local DB. So let's go ahead and start with dodging first, because I feel like that's usually what we deal with the most. So let's start with that. Got my brush out. I hit B. Hotkey for brush is B, so I just hit that real fast. And I'm probably going to go down to like 5% flow. Click this little pen pressure sensitivity button down. I promise I can talk. I know English. And I'm going to zoom in. And let's get out of this for a second. There we go. And with the left and right bracket, I can control the size of my brush. So that's what I'm doing there. And then just kind of paint over little areas like this. And as you can tell, all I'm doing is adding a little bit of extra exposure to those shadows, kind of painting it in. You can see it before and after, before, after, before, after. You might want to turn off your help layers just to make sure you're not messing with the skin tone too much or oversaturating or anything like that. So yeah, here's another thing that I normally do with skin. Sometimes I skip this step, but it's important that you don't, you know, especially if you want to do a really good, thorough job of your retouching. You don't really want to skip the local dodging and burning. The only reason why sometimes I skip it is by the end of the composite, you've got so much crazy stuff going on with dust and smoke and atmosphere and fire and everything that, you know, you can barely even notice a whole lot of details on the face. But I do think it's important that you do it. So yeah, just going through, getting some of these little areas here. I personally don't notice a huge difference. I mean, like if we were doing this for like, you know, an editorial magazine or something like that, you would probably notice a huge difference. But, you know, if you want to use the clone tool to do some of this work, you could. It may seem a little artificial towards the end, so this is basically just not getting rid of the skin, but just kind of smoothing out those transitions. That way it seems a little bit more natural. All right. Let's just back up and just kind of look at it for a second. You see some of these bigger areas, you know, if you want to get some of those bigger areas here, totally do that. Don't want to change the overall look and feel of the image. I do kind of want to keep it, you know, I don't want to change the lighting or anything on it. So it's subtle work, subtle work. You kind of look at it before and after again. Just kind of really smooths it out, right? Let's turn off our eye help layers. Look at the before and after. Yeah. See? And the only thing that we would really do with the burn is the same thing, just in the opposite. So like see highlights like right here, you could darken those up to make those transitions seem a little bit more fluid. And really, I don't want to go through and get every single detail. I just really want to get the ones that are just kind of catching my eye, you know? Ones that if it's really distracting, then, you know, let's get those. But composites usually take a long time without doing this process, so I definitely, I'm swap back over to Dodge. Definitely don't want to take a long time to do just this part. And also it depends on your subject and their complexion and you know, how much you may have to dodge and burn or retouch. So let's just say that we're good there. I say that, and then of course I see other stuff that I want to get now. Awesome. And one thing that we could do as well, back in our details layer, if I scroll down and see like some of these little hairs, I can hit the S hotkey, which brings back our clone stamping tool, and sample from the good areas of the shirt and just kind of paint over it. That's one way to do it. Or you could hit the hotkey J. J will bring up the spot healing brush and literally just kind of paint over it like that, and it should separate and sample from the areas of the good cloth shirt, whatever. And normally I wouldn't do it like this, but because there's all these little tiny patterns in the shirt, you're probably never going to see that detail anyway. And so it's just kind of a quick, easy way to fix it. And some people may never even notice those hairs anyway. It's just one of those things that bothers me. So I go in and fix it. As long as you're happy at the end of the day. Let's go with that. Let's go with that. All right. Cool. Cool. Let's say that we're good on that part. So let's skip over to our global dodging and burning. So we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to create another curves layer. Drag midtones up a little bit. Hit Control I. That's going to be D for dodge. Click curves again. Midtones down. Control I to hide it. Double click. B for burn. Let's hold the shift key down. Click on the dodge layer. That way it selects them both. Control or Command G makes it into a group. And we'll call that global dodging and burning. All right. Let's see. Let's start with the burning first. I'm going to pull up my brush. B for brush. And I'll probably keep it at 5% flow. You know what? I may go a little bit lighter. Let's go like 2 or 3%. Let's go start with 2. Keep the settings the same, 100% opacity. Click that pen pressure sensitivity down. Actually, uncheck that. I don't want that down. All right, and let's zoom up. And I'm going to start at the head, work my way down, and just kind of darken the shadows that are already there. Kind of like that. And you'll start to see the shape in the moment that we're kind of making here. I'm going to kind of go around the forehead, really get the eyebrow. If we can get in there and get some of the details of the eye, really make them pop out. Maybe some of the iris there, the pupil. And get around the nose, details of the nose at least, all the shadows. Right under the nose, the lips here, under the chin, all of this area. Kind of like sculpting a little bit, or drawing, painting, making objects seem a little bit more three-dimensional. All right, we're going to go in, get some of the shadows here. Let's go back up and get this ear. Kind of painting over some of the details of this ear, the shadows at least. And if I hold down the Alt key and click on the mask of the burn layer, you can kind of see what we're doing here. And if I click it on and off, you can just see the little subtle details we've got going on there. So let's zoom back in. Continue hitting the left and right bracket key just to increase, decrease the size of my brush, and holding the H hotkey to pull up this hand tool to move my image around a little bit. There's a little hair right there. I'm going to go back to details, hit J for spot healing brush, get that one little hair out. There we go. Maybe some of those little dots. That may not be a big deal to you, but they are to me. All right, back to burn. Got my hit B for brush, getting some of those shadows again. And again, you can really get the details of the wrinkles if you'd like to do that. Kind of gives it more of a painterly look when you do that to the image, which is kind of what I like. It's my style. Kind of my signature thing, I guess. It's really going to make the muscles pop out here in just a moment. And again, just kind of going through the details of the shirt here. We'll work our way down there in a moment. Let's go back up here to the arm. Kind of getting this area here. And overall, kind of getting this big part of the arm, really getting that tricep there, bicep up, shoulder muscle there. Working our way down, some of these fold details. Really getting here in the shadows of the hand. Kind of making this lightsaber hilt a little bit more three-dimensional by getting the shadows here. And I probably won't mess with the pants too much, just get a little bit of the shading here, this little outer part and inner part of the pant leg. Yeah. So when you look at our layer, that's kind of what we got. A little before, after. Do the same thing, only with dodge this time. So let's work our way back from the top. Kind of get this highlight in the hair. Kind of like that. Makes that hair kind of shine and pop out more. And getting right here where the eye is, right here underneath the eye, the little eye bag area, this cheek. Let's go ahead and get the ear since we're here. And let's go down this area of the lip, the nose. Getting all of this, really getting that upper part of the lip there. Bottom part of the lip here, maybe some of the chin. Any little tiny thing that we can call a highlight. Maybe if you want to bring the levels of the eyes up some, you could do something like that. That way you can see it a little bit better. And we're going to go back, work our way down the shirt, and some of the wrinkles in the shirt. Kind of get some of those highlights, bring them out. It's kind of like, just like painting, just kind of painting over Jake here, just a little bit. And getting this part right here up into that shoulder muscle, and then tricep muscle, kind of making it shine just a little bit more. Like I said, really making the muscle kind of pop a little bit. You could go down the whole arm just a little bit, but not a whole lot. Let's get this part right here. Getting some of the highlight on this hilt makes it a little bit more three-dimensional. You kind of see a little before and after there. Not going to mess with the lightsaber itself. It's already pretty highlighted, to say the least. Maybe get a little bit right here in this area. Stuff like that. Let's zoom out, check it all out. There we go. There's our dodge, there's our burn. And let's see what it looks like with and without it. So if you're happy with that, good, you can go on. Or if you ever want to take it and decrease the opacity of it, if you feel like you did it too much, again, that is always an option as well. So I'm probably just going to keep it. I may keep it just like that. I kind of like mine to look a little painterly. And yeah, so let's do that. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp this layer as a new layer, I believe. Let me think about it for a second. Do I want to do that? Yeah, let's do that. Let's go ahead and I'm going to deselect the background here and put all of this in one grouping. And we can just call it Jake. Let me go back in there. And nope, actually I changed my mind. I'm going to back up. Control Z, undo, undo. Alright, there we go. Let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of our eye help layers. Hit delete there. And I'm going to hit Control Shift Alt E to stamp everything. And I'll call that layer Jake. So all of these layers can probably just disappear for the moment. I'm just going to keep them there, but so I'm going to keep it like that. This is going to be what we cut out. So I normally would use the pen tool for this, but I'm going to see if Photoshop will do a good job of recognizing what my subject is. So I'm going to hit W to bring up the magic wand tool, and then I'm going to hit select subject. And I'm going to see if Photoshop recognizes what my subject is. It does an okay job, but you can see certain areas where it really doesn't get it. Now I could, hold the Alt key down and really try to fine tune it. But because, I'm going to hit Control D to deselect, because there's a lot of gray tones in his image, and he was shot on a gray background, chances are Photoshop is not going to know what I want cut out. So I think the best thing to do in this scenario is just use the pen tool. I think it's going to be kind of quick and easy anyway. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to hit P to bring up my pen tool right there. I'm going to zoom in to probably, what is this, like 400% or more, and start here at the bottom on the gray and then start to cut him out. If you've never used the pen tool before, it's really awesome. You just kind of click and hold. It brings up this little axis here, and you can just kind of click it and hold it. Or you can just dot, 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 dot. You can do that too. Because when you're this close, no one's really going to ever see that you do it like this. But if you decide that you do this and you really just mess up, Control Z is your friend, because that is your hotkey for undo. So let's go ahead and continue to cut our subject out. Old Jakey Jake here. This should be a relatively straight shot here. So I'm just kind of going along the edge. Normally I wouldn't go too far above. I kind of cut under the outline because normally we're going to blur the edge anyway, just to give it a little bit of depth. In other words, I would cut into his skin a little bit. I wouldn't cut above like the gray line like this. I would kind of cut inward, kind of like that. I may loosely cut out of the hair here. That way I can use like refine edge or something like that to extract some of the individual hairs. But since his hair is pretty clean, we probably won't have to do a whole lot of that. Like right here, Photoshop's going to have a hard time noticing what is actually his hair. So because of that fact, I may cut in just a little bit, but I may end up just kind of painting it all out. Getting right here, his forehead, zoom in a little bit more. Same thing here, I may use the pen tool, not the pen tool, the refine edge to get some of those eyebrow hairs or eyelash hairs. But because it's so close to that gray background, it may not pick up very well. That's why it's probably smarter to photograph on a green screen. I just didn't want to photograph on a green screen with his green lightsaber, because he would already have a lot of green in his skin with that green background. Then we'd run into the same issue, basically. I probably could have put a blue screen or something else up, but since I figured I would know what to do, I figured I would just go ahead and shoot it on a gray. I'm used to shooting on a gray background. It's what I've primarily shot on almost all of my career. But a green screen does make your life a little bit easier. But see, we're already almost done cutting him out, so it didn't take too long at all. And then we can get to the fun part. Fun stuff. The actual compositing begins. Here we go. Good moment for Control Z there. And let's get this outer edge. Boom, 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 boom. Get all of this right here. And there we almost go. Oh, actually, yeah, because his legs are together, there's no space there. So go ahead and connect the dots there. Right click, go to make selection. I normally like to keep it between 1 and 2 pixels, but it's normally never just 1. It might be like 1.2 or 1.3, but 2 sometimes works good. Let me show you. Click on the mask down here to mask it out. And if we zoom out just a little bit, you can just kind of see that the edge here is kind of feathered because of that 2 pixel radius that we just did it at. So that could work. Right there it gets a little weird. So I might Control Z, back up, go back to my pen tool, right click, make selection. Let's do 1.4. I'm just guessing here. Hit that again and see it's still blurred, but it's a little bit sharper. I think I like that a little bit better, so let's go with that. And then the next thing I want to do, since we're right here at the head, let's go ahead and with that mask selected on Jake's layer, we're going to go up to select and mask, or you could just double click on that mask and it would bring up the same menu. And then go to refine edge brush tool, and we're going to kind of paint out some of the gray here. Now this is kind of tricky. It's not always 100% if you shot it the way that I shot it, you know, with dark tones on a dark background. That's where if you were to shoot like on a green screen or something that's just very contrast, a background that's contrasting to the subject, you would have a lot easier time doing this. But you can see like right here where his hair gets to be dark in the shadows, Photoshop may not have a hard time recognizing, and it may cut into the hair like that. So I may have to paint some of his hair back in. But I mean, that's a relatively minute problem to have. And so now I'm hitting the R hotkey because R is the hot key for that refine edge brush. And see right here we might have problems, but we might not. It's not terrible. It's not great, but it's not terrible. kind of cut off his eyelash a little bit. So we'll go ahead and hit OK. And here's what I mean. Like, that's my old layer. That's my new layer. Hence, Jake, copy. If I were to create a new layer in there, so I'm going to hit Control-Shift-N to create a new layer. And I'll just keep it as layer 1 because I'm going to delete it here in a moment. And then, yeah, I'll just use like a red color because it's nice and contrasting. You can go in, you can see better. It's just an eye helper where we've kind of, where Photoshop kind of did a poor job and where I did a poor job of getting some of the hair. So, best way to fix that is just to get your brush out, white and black. You want to click on the Jake copy layer there. I'll probably go ahead and get rid of that layer there. On the mask with your white brush, if you want to increase the flow to like 15% or so, you can. And I'm going to decrease the size of my brush, kind of just paint in some of these details that are lacking. Hit the X hotkey to swap to black. You see right there. Hit X, goes back and forth like that. With black selected, I can get this outer area and kind of fix it up a little bit. If I want to get rid of that hair altogether, I could. And then swap over to white, fill in this area right here. And the good thing is that because the background is a dark gray background, if I were to paint in like a detail like that, it still looks like it's hair. So at this point, and plus, we're going to be zoomed out probably a lot more. So a lot of these errors are kind of forgivable because you're not going to see them as well. And then swapping back over to white, maybe filling in some of this area right here. Going back over to black. And let's see. Really zoom in. And control, what is it? Yeah, control plus or minus allows you to zoom in, zoom out. So you can just kind of really get that fine-tuning detail like that. Maybe control Z back up. Try that again. Something like that. And let's see, control minus to zoom out, or control 0 just to get all the way out. I mean, I think that looks pretty clean. I could really go in, scan it more to make sure. I'm not too concerned really about the hairs of the neck. Honestly, they can go bye-bye. All right, so let's zoom out. Cool, I'd say we're good with that extraction. And I'll just delete that red background. Let me go ahead and save it because I don't want to lose what I've got. So make sure I'm saving it as a PSD file. I'll just save it as it is right now because I may save another file. Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and cancel that and click that little button down there. See, Control Shift S is our hotkeys to bring up our saving options. I'm going to name it Star Wars Jake 1 because I'll probably do others. So we'll just go ahead and name that and hit save and hit OK. Cool. Zither good. All right, so we got our extraction here. I honestly want to turn this image into a horizontal image just because I think it'd be more cinematic. And also it'd work really well with the stock images that I plan to use for it. So we'll come back to this. Let's go ahead and look at our stock images. So I'm going to open up Adobe Bridge so I can pull up my files that way. So let's go to my Galaxy's Edge stock images. This is where it's going to get really fun. See, we got all this stuff in here. We got the AT-ATs and all of this fun stuff. So let's see. Actually, let me go over to this right here. Where are they? Here we go. awesome. So there's a lot of stuff that I could do, and the options could be kind of overwhelming, but like I like that. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Let's go back. Let me go back over to Jake's folder real quick. On Jake's image that we were looking at, right? So we did a lot of Superman stuff too. It was this image here at the bottom, I believe. All right, so Jake's image here at the bottom. Look at the settings here. All right, so the main thing I'm trying to check out now is the focal length. Focal length was shot at 70 millimeters, so it would be best if we found another image shot at 70 millimeters. Now, I know realistically, I may not have a whole lot of images that were shot that way, but ideally, that's what you would want to do. So you could, in Adobe Bridge, go down here to focal length and isolate all the images that were shot at 70 millimeters. So, you know, we could use something like that as a background because we're already kind of looking up at the Millennium Falcon anyway, and that could work, or even this right here. Ideally, that's what we would want to do. And I may do something like that. Or I may just choose something that looks cool, period. Like I like this image. I may star it. Control, what is this? Like apostrophe or something. Give it 1 star. That way I can pull it up in a second. Or maybe even something like that. Like where you get a little bit more of the city and a little bit more of all of that stuff. The problem is that it's a wide shot that was shot at, what was it? What was this image shot at? This image was shot, well, it wasn't shot at 70 millimeters. I know that. But I may just, you know, and it's like, do I want like an inside corridor? One thing to keep in perspective as well is the fact that I was on the ground shooting up at Jake. So I do want another image that was kind of shot at the ground level looking up, like maybe even something like that. Now, I'm not going to use that because even though it's a cool background, I just don't want it for this. So that may not work. But whether we want like inside, like this could potentially work. I'll start just to be sure. And I may just kind of play around with it. Look at some of these images here. Like I really like the mountainscape. I could change it to where maybe it's at night instead of, you know, daytime. Let's keep going. Let's keep playing around with this. You know, we could do something like that. Like I said, maybe change the sky to where it's nighttime and do all kinds of, see, that's cool. Man, there's just all kinds of stuff we could do with this. I wouldn't make it like so bright in the day. Maybe make it look more like sunset so the lightsaber really pops out. As you can tell, I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants trying to figure out how this is going to be because I have a roundabout idea for a concept, but not like a full-on concept. So, but we know what we want. Like we know we want something looking upward a little bit, as if we were on the ground shooting up. So, man, we got so much cool stuff from all this. Like that. That could even work, you know. Granted, it was shot at 32 millimeters, but, you know, we could always try to zoom it in a little bit and fake it that it was, you know, shot the way we wanted it to be shot. And even though my hand's in that shot, like, I knew that we would be using this for compositing purposes. So really all I need is like that little circle, this area right here. Let's see. And then also lighting. You know, how is Jake lit? He's got one light coming from up top aiming down at him. So that's another kind of important factor there that we might want to pay attention to as we do this process. Like maybe not have him face this way, but if we use this shot, have him face the opposite direction. Or change the background to fit Jake. Either way, that could work too. Now this one could be close because it was shot at 60 millimeters. But really, I've only kind of gone through these images a couple of times. And because there's so many, I have to refamiliarize myself with all of these shots as well. So, because there's just a lot of really good stuff that we could do. The question I'm asking myself right now is how much work do I want to put into this? Do I want to like rearrange the sky to where it's nighttime, or do I want to put him indoors to where it's kind of dark already and the lightsaber kind of pops a little bit more? And that's what I think I'm kind of leaning towards. Like, I freaking love this landscape. It's so cool. But do I want to do all of the work that's going to have to go into making the daytime, nighttime, and all that stuff? Which really is not as hard as I'm making it out to be. We could have him standing there with the jets of that going off in the background. So I may do another image like that though. I think for this one, I may use like one of these like corridors, something inside, make some of the lights glow a little bit more. And that way we kind of show off all of this stuff. See, this would be cool if I shot it from a different angle, if I got lower and shot it and it wasn't 24 millimeters. The same with this one. The perspectives are just a little off. And you don't want your perspectives to be off when you do stuff like this. This could work. Something like this right here. What I'm going to do in a second is I'm going to take all these images that I've starred and I'm actually just going to throw them in there and look at it behind him and see how I like it. I may star that one. Maybe. May star this one. That could work. That's actually zoomed in too much, but you know, better to have that than super wide. So in my mind, I'm just trying to see what can I zoom in, what also looks cool, what, you know, if the lighting's not like horribly off, you know, as far as that goes. See, this could be cool. This was shot at 65 millimeters, so that's actually pretty dang close to what we would need. I may star it just to do it. Problem is that even though it's really cool, I'm not like a huge fan of that. Maybe for something else I would be, but just to kind of reiterate that. That's such a cool area. Gosh, if you've never been to Galaxy's Edge, it's so cool. So cool. That could be a cool perspective as well. I'm going to skip it though for now because I feel like we have some better options. And this could also be pretty cool. You know, that would be cool. More of like a sunset though. I don't really know. I may start anyway, but I don't know if I'll end up going with that one. Alright, cool. Let's just pull up all the stars. So in Bridge, I'm holding down Control-Shift-Alt-1. This is just the way that I view my images. So if you don't have Bridge, no worries there. Gosh, how many was that? 13? Okay. I'm going to go over to Bridge. Yeah, right there, because I want to drag it in above Global Dodge and Burn. So I'm going to go over to my images, hit Control-A to select them all, drag them into Photoshop, and let the magic begin. Actually, no. Let me hit Escape. Let me change that, and here's why. Because instead of dragging the images into where Jake is, I'm probably just going to perhaps create a new document. Either that or drag him into the image, as long as it meets the same specifications. These are raw images, so they should. Oh gosh, I gotta do this 13 more times. Cancel. Alright. Stop the recording real quick and now I'm back. Alright, so let's pick up where we left off. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new document. First I'm going to look at the image that I have right now. Okay, so we're roughly at this. I want to keep those settings about the same. So I may copy that. 5760, I think that's, yeah, create file new. And see, it might be in one of the, yeah, actually I can just click on this one and make sure it's horizontal, resolution 300, 16-bit, cool. And we'll just go back to our Star Wars Jake 1.2 and create that. There we go. And let's drag these into there real quick and just kind of look at them. That way I can just hit OK, OK, and do that about 10 more times. Alright, so now that I've loaded all of these backgrounds in, I'm going to take Jake over here, and I haven't quite decided how I'm going to do it yet. If I'm going to find the background, bring it into this document, or if I'm going to bring it into this document. But either way, I'm going to use this document to kind of play around with. So let's just say that we like Jake right here. Maybe off to the side, kind of give it like a rule of thirds type look. Now here's one thing to keep in mind too about Jake and his image. If I delete the mask, you don't see the floor in this image, but you can kind of assume that it's somewhere down in this area right here where his feet get cut off. So keeping that in mind, we wouldn't see things like the floor over here. So if we were going to make this image work, we would probably have to whoops, I'm going to try to hold Alt and Shift down at the same time to keep the perspective the same. Probably have to make it bigger and then also bring it down like that in order for the perspective to be correct and for it to work. And so I'm thinking for this, I'm probably not going to use that one, so I'm just going to delete it. It's out. There's one option down. Now, the floor might be okay here, but because it was shot kind of wide, I would still need to zoom it in probably a little bit. But I probably wouldn't really need to move it around too much. It's probably good like that. Now that might work. I'm not a fan of how it's bright over here, and that would conflict with the lightsaber. I want the lightsaber to really stand out, so I'd either have to paint it black or maybe, rotate the background, stuff like that. So I don't think I'm going to use that one. I'm going to delete it. There we go. Now this one could work because I think it was shot roughly around the same millimeters, I guess. So it could work, but again, the brightness over here, I don't know if I'm all for that. Now I could darken it. I could make it nighttime. So we could do something like that if this were like nighttime and we made all that work. So I might hold on to it. We'll just see. Making decisions here. Now the perspective is definitely all off on this one. We could maybe make it work if we zoomed it in a good bit and maybe even played around with the perspective. I don't know. Might be better off just to not use it. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just say no. Delete. This is what helps me sometimes. So the perspective is wrong on this one, but I do like the cliffs and everything like that. And you could imagine that if he were standing there, that the Millennium Falcon would be in the background, maybe around that area, because the ground's like way down here. So you could imagine something like that maybe. Wouldn't be too far of a grasp to get something like that going. So I'm probably not going to use that one, but I'll probably hold on to it. Now this one might work if I zoom it in more. And I don't know, maybe if I flipped it. I don't know, it seems like it could be a lot of work. So probably going to say no, but I'll just hide it for right now. Not liking that one, so I'm going to hit no. Maybe on this one. I have a strong feeling that I'm going to end up using one of the inside ones. But I'm going to entertain these ideas for a moment. I mean, like stuff like this could work, but again, since it looks like it was shot kind of wider, And I might end up making Jake a little bit bigger too, even though I really like seeing more of him. Like, I'm okay, like, if we end up doing the shot, whoops, you know, like that, like, you know, super in close like that. I mean, to me, I think that would be cool, cinematic. I would like that. Probably gonna go with no on that one. Definitely no on this one. Even, yeah. Like, the lighting's still coming from above, so that kind of matches, but the shadows are different, so just no. This one, trying to hold Shift and Alt. There we go. So yeah, the floor is probably way down there somewhere, if I had to imagine. So this could probably be accurate, if not even, no, we're going to keep it right about there, I'm thinking. I mean, that could work. I don't know. I don't know if I'm sold on it yet, but we'll see. I'm going to go ahead. Let me see. I may hold on to that one. I'm going to say no on that one. I'm going to go back to that one. I want to use it to show off the stock images, but I'm going to go ahead and hit no on that one. Let's see. This one could work. Again, I kind of want to make it look like it's at night, though, because I don't want the conflict with the sun and the lightsaber. It just doesn't feel like, it doesn't feel right, you know? And again, you know, for this perspective, we would have to put the background way down there in order for it to look somewhat realistic. So I'm probably going to hit no on that one. And let's check out this one. Let's see, the background's there, so let's bring it probably right about there. This could work if I make it like totally nighttime and also get rid of some of those specks that I'm not a huge fan of. So let's do this. Let's play around. I mean, maybe if that was moonlight, that could work. So I'm going to go ahead and hit no on that one. And let's play around with this for a second. So I've got this background, right? And I've got some color lookups that I might try to play around with, just to get like a quick look, like foggy night. That's not what I want. I would definitely have to take the blue sky out, no question there, and then give it like a night sky. But this, I could put steam. In there. I'm leaning towards this because this is like, looks like an inside industrial type look, and I don't know if I have too many of those. Pretty sure I don't. Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to play around with it too much. I mean, I want to kind of do this. You know? So let's see. Let me see what other ones I still have. If I have that one, that one, and that one. Let me play around with that. We'll entertain the foggy night for a second. You know what? I think there's a lot more that I could do with this one right here. Honestly, I really do. I could probably add like some glowing lights and stuff and really kind of play around with it. So let's do that. Let's keep that. It's like he's inside, like we're looking up at him and also looking back up at the background too. So like this could work. It could be somewhat believable. So what I may do is, because again this image was shot way different. I may zoom it in some more. And let's see, the floor is way down there. So I could do, how do I want to do this? Like, I really like this yellowish design here, because we could throw in some lights from that. And all of this, like, kind of reminds me of Empire Strikes Back when Luke has to fight Darth Vader. So trying to find ways to make it work. See, I think we can still get away with that because, like I said, the floor is way down there. So I may just do this right here and say that we're good. Actually, yeah, just like that. Cool. Sorry that took forever in a day, but really wanted to make sure that we had what we wanted. All right, so let's just say this is our background. This is our background that we're going with. We're doing this. I want Jake, who I'm just going to label as Jake, not Jake copy. I may change his perspective. So I may take him, Control T, make him a little bit bigger, just because I think that looks a little bit cool. Like, I'm okay with his head being cut off a little bit. Like, I'm just going to play around with this for a second, honestly. Like I wonder how he would look if we did him, like, super close. Like, I wonder if that's too much. Let's just escape. Go back for a second. Maybe, because one thing I do feel confident about is that I don't really think I want him to be, like, smaller like that. Like, I want him to take up more of the image. So I'm thinking if I, hold my Control or my Alt key down so I can keep his perspective, all right, pretty close there. I wonder if I want to rotate him some, kind of tilt him. No. If anything, I want his back to be aligned with some of the other structures in the background, so that could work. If I want to put him way off over here, I think over here might be a little bit better. And you know what? Before I even go this far, let me just keep it okay right there, because one thing that's going to make our overall look even more cinematic is to crop it 16:9. So I might do that. Like, I might actually take our image, because I'm just, for whatever reason, really digging this yellow that's up here. I'm going to bring it up and maybe leave about that much room, I think. Let me back out for a second, make sure I know what I'm doing. Let's see. Yeah, let's bring it up just a tad bit. Sweet. Do it like that. Now we can take Jake, and if we want to, he got cut off. We don't want that. We don't want that. So this is why we play around. So, like, say for example, we could take our, it's a good thing we still have that PSD file open. We tried it this way. So let's just delete Jake for a second and just play with the background. And if we bring it right up to about maybe there, say I kind of like that, boom. Let's just hit OK. And go back to Jake. Drag him back in. Cool. And then kind of play around with the, so yeah, floor is kind of down by his feet there. Maybe we could bring this in some. Rotate him, maybe bring him back down just a tad bit. My goal is to make this look really cool and cinematic when it's all said and done. But I'm going to go with that because I like that. And let's make Jake, not Jake copy, Jake match the background a little bit better. So let's take a curves layer and we're going to clip it to Jake, and we're going to click on this little box right here, hold the Alt key down, go to Auto, and this little menu pops up. We're going to go to Find Dark and Light Colors, and we're going to select our shadows, midtones, and highlights. So I'm going to click on shadows, and I'm going to select what I think is the darkest part of this image, which I think it's maybe in this area right here, perhaps. Let's back out for a second. Something like that maybe. Hit OK. Midtones, I'm probably just going to keep the same. And then highlights, whatever the brightest part of the image is, which is definitely going to be the lightsaber. Right there. Hit OK, hit no. And let's see. Honestly, I don't like that. I think we could probably get it better. So let's scratch that step actually. Let's go to selective color instead. Selective color, clip that to our Jake layer. And here's what we're going to do to really help our eyes adjust to what we're doing. We're going to create a new layer. So Control Shift N for a new layer. We're going to name this our gray layer. Gray with an E, gray with an A, however you want to spell it. Gray layer. We're going to hit Shift F5. That's going to make our layer gray. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK there. Awesome. Change that blending mode to luminosity. And we're going to go to hue and saturation, bump that saturation all the way up to 100. What that is doing is giving us an idea of all the colors in this image in a better, it's an eye help layer. So this is going to help us do our color grading. So I'm going to double click on our selective color that's connected to Jake. And I'm going to adjust Jake here with the red tones and everything to try to match everything in the background. So you see there's a lot more blues, but these, you got some oranges and yellows in there. So, and actually I'll tell you what, I'm going to start with the neutrals first because that's where it's going to be the strongest. So we could probably play around with some of this a little bit more to get it to fit, yeah, in the overall direction what we're trying to do. And then we'll do it without the hue and saturation in a moment so we can really kind of see what we're doing, if we're on the right track or if we're really screwing this up. Greens. He's going to have a lot of green. So actually let's not mess with the greens right now because we want to make sure that we're keeping the green in the image for the lightsaber. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and turn these eye help layers off. There we go. Let's see a before and after. So you can already kind of tell that he is matching a little bit better. You know, he's not quite there yet. He's still got a little ways to go, but he is getting there. So I might play with the blacks here and increase the black level to where it kind of blends in with the darker tones of the image. I don't want to do it too much though. Maybe just a little bit. And I may just leave it alone. I don't want to play with it too much and completely get it off the chart here. The whites, I may just leave those like they are for right now. Let's go back to cyan. And sometimes you can just kind of play with these sliders and just eyeball it and be like, oh, that looks good. Oh, that doesn't look right. And that helps out a pretty good bit as well. I don't think there's a whole lot of blue, so we may not mess with that too much. And Control Z is your friend. You want to always have Control Z close by in case you mess up and you want to kind of start over or just back up. Because what I'm going to end up doing is he's already got some green on him, but I may put a little extra green on him. But I also want to put, like, you know, I want to make this glow in a moment, make it seem like it's a yellowy orange light, so I might put that highlight on him as well. And one thing I think I'm going to probably do with this background is I might blur it in a moment, but I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. Let's keep playing with it. So this background here. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I am going to do that. Let's go ahead and select the background. I'm going to go to Filter, Blur Gallery, and let's go to Field Blur. Here we go. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to blur it. I might have to move my head out of the way. See if I can move my little screen head. There we go. Right about there, I think. I might take it and blur it about, I don't know. Let's try 35%. Let's try 50. I mean, I personally kind of like the look of, you know, him being in focus and everything else being kind of somewhat blurred out of the way. And then maybe do like a light bokeh with that, so you still get some light bokehs. Maybe keep that around 40%. Same with the color bokeh, 40%. Kind of preview it without it, with it. We might make those flare out in a moment. So let's do that. Let's hit OK. See where we're at. And one thing that's going to really kind of tie it together, as it fades off towards the bottom and gets brighter towards the top, I might add a little bit of a vignette. So I'm just going to add a new layer and call it V for vignette. Hit the M hotkey tool to bring up our marquee up here in the top left. I'm going to change it to that circle. And I'm just going to kind of like loosely do this. Start at the top left, go to the bottom right, make a little oval like that. Okay, and then hit Shift F6 to bring up our feather selection. And that's got our feather radius at 350. I want to keep it. Hit OK. And then I'm going to hit Control Shift I to inverse that. And then G to bring up our paint bucket tool, which is right here. I'm going to paint it black. Then Control D to deselect. And it's already kind of cool, but I don't want to hide these lights, so I'm going to change that blending mode to like overlay or soft light. Just something to make it look a little bit more subtle. You know, kind of fade it in a little bit like that. So that's real cool. Maybe even decrease it to like, I don't know, 80% or 85%, something like that. So let's keep that for a moment. When it's all said and done, I may blur the edges on Jake, but I'm going to probably save that closer towards the end. And I may also make Jake a smart object, because I may play around with the liquify tool on him for a second. So now that he's a smart object, I'm going to go to Filter, Liquify, and sorry Jake, I may bring his butt in just a tiny bit. May bring up the pectoral muscles, hit show background so I can kind of see what I'm doing here. And I may just slightly bring this in a little bit. These are all like subtle changes. Something like that. And hit OK. That way you can kind of see like a little before and after there. So it's not a big difference. Honestly, we probably could have just done without it, but I may keep it. Let's see. Now that we've done that, what else do we want to try? Because I'm planning on using Oniric for some of these non-destructive glow generators in a moment, and like add some really cool lens flares. But before I do that, I really want to make sure that I get this lightsaber really cool and right. And I could do that in Photoshop, but I really like what Oniric does for this. So tell you what, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of color grading. I may add another selective color overall layer. I want to bring my my floating head back over here. There we go. And I may play around with some of these color tones in the image, like those orangey reds, things like that. Orange and green are a nice contrast, so I might, kind of play with some of that a little bit. Give it some warm tones, like maybe warm over here, but kind of cool over here. Kind of make it really cinematic. This overall grays. Debating on what I want to do here. I may leave it like that just for a moment. I don't know. I may play with blacks. We'll kind of see what we want here. Part of me kind of likes the yellowish a little bit, almost like it's hot in there instead of cold. I might do that. Get it like all steamy. And I'll probably add like smoke and steam in a moment, but before I get all crazy with all that, let's keep it right there. I'm going to throw in some of these color lookups and just kind of play around with what looks cool. And I'm literally just eyeballing this. Just kind of looking at it, be like that, don't like this, don't like this. Like that could be cool, but it kind of meshes with that warm feeling I was going for a second ago. I mean, that could be kind of cool, the teals and oranges, because it is green and orange are going to be, I think, probably the primary colors. Film stock always makes it look a little bit more cinematic than it normally does. I may add that in there, but add it like at 15%, like real subtle, and then do another color lookup with that teal green. Oh, no, not that. The teal orange plus, and then decrease it to like 20%, maybe 25. Again, this is me totally just playing around. Heck, let's do it at 50. Let's do it at 50. Yeah, it's too much. 35. Okay, let's do that. Now, let's take what we've got, and I'm probably going to run Oniric and just kind of see what it does with this image. So let's go ahead and run it. Part of me really wants to do more, though, before I start just jumping in. So I tell you what, let me back up. Let me back up for a second. Let's go to some of my stock images here. I'm going to go into my Adobe stock, and I'm going to look at some of the smoke and particles that I have. So I have like a little folder for smoke, and I'm going to look at that, pull it up in Adobe Bridge, hit enter, just to look at all the smoke that I want. I don't want that kind of smoke, but maybe something like this would be kind of cool. Kind of like throwing in some atmosphere, you know what I mean? And make it really pop out in the lightsaber in a moment. Like the smoke's going through the lightsaber. And I do kind of like the smokiness. I don't know necessarily like maybe something like that could work. But I like how it fades up from the bottom in some of these other ones. Maybe that one. I'll just highlight that one too. More like this, I think. Yeah. And I can't quite figure out if I want just a haze yet or what. So we'll figure that out together, won't we? There's so much in here. So much smoke. Golly. May have overwhelmed myself with options. But it's better to have options than not a lot of options. Okay, I passed one a second ago. That could be what I want. Let's grab that one too. And yeah, I'm going to go with those. And drag them into Photoshop. Boom, just like that. Might bring that one up a little bit. Hit OK. Maybe bring this one up. Rotate it some or something like that. I may end up just deleting it, but we'll see. This one needs to be flipped. Bring it up some. Hit OK. And same thing with this one. I might flip it and bring it up a little bit. All right, I want to take all of those, hold the shift key down, select them all, change the blending mode to screen. All right, now one at a time I'm going to play around with these. Let's check out this one first. Let's check out this one. Could be cool. I think I like that one better. Kind of goes with the angle of the lightsaber. Maybe we could do one in the foreground, one in the background. And I mean, heck, I don't know. They could all work to some degree, but I don't want to over smoke this thing. So I kind of like that. Let's just go with that. Let's go with what we like and play around with it first. So I like that. Let's bring it down to like 50%. And I might just put it in the background. So let's drag it below Jake's layer. And maybe throw a mask on it. And with a black brush, click this pin pressure sensitivity, bring it down to like 15% flow. I'm going to change the side of my brush, make my hardness at 0%, and just lightly paint out the bottom half of this. So it's just real subtle and faint. Maybe some of those areas. Like this is a very, very subtle effect that I'm wanting to go for. I may even decrease it to like 35%. You know, maybe 40, so you can see a little bit more. And now this smoke, this smoke here, this could be a good like foreground smoke. Like if I bring it up more, tip it some, bring it like right about there or so, and hit OK. And then I could probably bring that back down to like 50%. Part of me wants to blur it though, so like I may go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, 20%. Just hit OK, which in the end we may not even end up even being able to see it. So I guess we'll find out. Actually, I'm going to hide it for right now and go to this one, this foreground one, and this one. I think that's pretty cool. Let's do that one. Let's keep it kind of higher, like maybe 60%. Keep this one right here. Keep it like at 50. All like subtle little things here that we're trying to do. I mean, part of me almost, I don't know. I mean, part of me is like, hey, keep it like that because it's real. So I don't know. Let's do that. Let's keep this down a lot, like say 25%. Okay. All of this can probably be even more subtle. Yeah, like I would rather it be like that than the way we had it. I mean, even that feels like it could be a little too much. It's like 20%. And if I need to play with the contrast or something, I can totally do that here in a moment. Or even like this vignette here, hit Control J, duplicate it, drag it to the top. And that way it's, you know, still, well, that might be too much. I don't know if I like that. So let's just keep it like that. Too many decision making here. Too much decision making. Because because in a moment when I do the let's just delete that one. Keep that one right here. And I may throw a mask on both of these smoke layers and then just lightly paint out the top, but not much, so they're not messing too much with my flares I'm going to be adding. And we're going to hold that for a moment, and we're going to start playing with Onric. So let's do that. Let's bring it up. Hit generate. Oh, actually, you know what? I probably should back out because I just realized I didn't have my brush flow turned all the way back up to 100%. So actually, let me hit cancel. There we go. Let me click all of that stuff right. There we go. Hit generate. Cool. We're going to go with green. We're going to let's preview it first. That's before, after, before, after. I do kind of like somewhat of a general glow sometimes, but let's do that one at a time first. So let's just click the mask. Let's just select the lightsaber here. There we go. And hit apply. There we go. And let's go to colorize. And we're going to go, now we could make it red and that'd be super sweet, or blue, or anything. We can make it whatever we want. But I'm thinking about, yeah, keeping it green the way that Jake had it. Ooh, that's pretty sweet. Pretty nifty. I wonder if I go a little bit more green, what kind of green we want. If we want more of like a really green, or like a lime green, what kind of green do we want? I think I'm going more towards like the yellow green, just because of the color scheme that's currently set up. Or what I could do is just turn the preview off and actually select the green from his lightsaber. If it'll let me. I wonder if I can turn the preview off and go like right here in that area, and then yeah, that way it's a little bit more of his color, but I kind of like the other color better. So I'm going to change your lightsaber color, Jake, just a little bit. And I may increase the saturation to 100% just to see what it looks like. Ooh, man, it's almost like bright to the eyes, you know what I mean? Like it kind of hurts the eyes a little bit. It's so bright. But I kind of like that. Let me bring it down to like 85 there. And let's play, I'm just going to play with these settings because I love this plugin. Light dispersion, that may do something kind of wonky, but if I bring it up a lot, you'll see what I'm talking about. It kind of makes like this rainbow effect. But it could be really cool though. So let's just, if I do any light dispersion, let's keep it down pretty low. And let's see, let's play with the radius. I don't know if I want to keep it really small or if I want to bring it up more. Because if I keep it really small, it's going to be kind of confined to the lightsaber and not the overall image. If I make it a lot bigger, then you're going to see a lot more green everywhere else. Which is kind of cool. But I don't want to like overdo it. Sometimes it's cool to see what it looks like overdone so that you can kind of make your plans accordingly. I may just keep it back at 20, which is where it was at. Because we had kind of a little bit of a even spread there as far as like the lightsaber light and going across the image goes. So I think I'm just going to do that. I'm going to keep it there and hit save. Yeah, I'm going to do that. And like I said, we'll probably add some lens flares in a second. Man, I love this plugin. I think this plugin is so cool. Like I used to try to, I could do these effects myself, but they just took so much longer. And so now I'm really glad that I have this plugin. It's worth getting. It's worth getting. Awesome. So we have our lightsaber now. Now let's play around with some of the other stuff like the yellow I was talking about. So let's go to generate again. This is going to be so freaking cool. I'm nerding out just looking at it. I'm like, this is going to be sweet. Alright, so let's do this time. Now that we're here, let's, with our mask, just brush in the yellow. And right here. I'm going to pretend like those are lights for something. You know, they may be just blocking out the sun, but I'm going to pretend like they're lights. I'm going to hit apply. And this time, instead of diffuse, we're going to go with streak. And this is where we're going to get that J.J. Abrams looking Michael Bay lens flare. And we're going to crank up the threshold and aperture exposure so we can actually see kind of what we're doing. Only problem is that I'm getting a little bit of that lightsaber, and I don't want that. So I'm going to have to get rid of that a little bit. May bring that threshold down, or the exposure down more. Even more. And I may redefine my mask, so I'm going to go back into Edit Mask, pull up that eraser, and just kind of erase out the lightsaber here. Yeah, we'll just do it like that. Hit apply again. There we go. That's mucho better. Play around with this radius. Maybe make it really flare out some. Kind of like that. Part of me doesn't know though if I want to bring the threshold down or up, I guess. But we're in the program, so we can just keep playing with it until we see what we like. I mean, that's kind of cool. You can play around with the rotation and the streak details. I may do that. 27. Kind of like 27. Just going to like really overdo it for a second and just kind of see what it looks like if I really overdo like the threshold and exposure. I can't speak right now. I don't know why. Let's see. Just gonna really overdo it. Really make it bright. Yeah, that's way too much. So let's bring it back down a pretty good bit. I mean, I definitely want to be able to see what we're doing here. And you know what? I don't know. Maybe streak isn't the best option. Maybe I need to go back to diffused and play around with that. Get a little before and after there. It's almost like maybe there could be sunlight poking in just a little bit. Wouldn't it be great if we had like a Stormtrooper hand just like popping up out of the bottom like Oh, I kid myself. This is where it gets really hard. It's trying to figure out how you want to do your image. You know what I mean? Some of these I say final touches, but like some of these little tiny things make a huge difference, and they're just hard to figure out, you know? Here's what I think I'm going to do. I think I may temporarily go with a little bit of a flare, but for some of it, because you can play with it in mask, so you can paint in and paint out certain things. So I think I'm going to, again, paint in and paint out some of those things. All right. So now that we've done that, I may do a separate one, because again, I don't want to mess too much with this. So I may do another one where I hit generate and do this one as diffuse instead of the streak, because that might make a bigger difference. You're seeing me think about this. You're seeing me, like, you know, figure this all out. Because each composite's very, very different from the next. And so sometimes I have it all figured out and sometimes I don't. So this is actually kind of cool because we're kind of creating as we go along, you know? So I'm going to try to get around the lightsaber. Do that. So let me hit apply. We're going to go to diffuse this time, crank up the exposure, crank up the threshold. I mean, I kind of like that. And then maybe do a little bit of this light dispersion just to see what happens. Didn't really see anything. Okay, let's just bring it back down to 0 and bring the exposure down a tiny, tiny bit. That's before and after. So let's just hit save. Alright, so you can see now I have one for this one, and then I have this one. And I may try to keep a little bit of both. What I may do here is take this one with that white mask, paint black over this part. And I might leave some of that little flare in there. I don't know. We'll see. And I'll turn this one back on. You know, that way it's kind of more subtle. Or I may just, you know, take it out altogether. And I can always decrease the opacity of it. I do like it kind of bright though, you know, so that's what's hard for me. Let's go back, maybe paint white some of this back in. There we go. And I tell you what, I may get rid of those later. We'll play around with it and find out. But let's keep going. Let's hit generate again. I want to get some of these lights at the bottom. So the lights at the bottom, let's hit mask with our brush. Let's paint here, 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 just in a bunch of different areas, like over here. Maybe we can pretend like these are lights, or there's some lights somewhere over there somewhere. Hit apply. Go back to streaks. And we can, that one's obviously going to be a little bright. Let's bring up the threshold, see if we can see it in some of the others. And what I may end up doing is doing a separate one for this one. Actually, let me just do that. Let me go ahead and get the eraser. Erase this one out. Go ahead and hit apply again. And let's play around with the radius. Really get those streaks to streak across. And Might play with some of the light dispersion. Some. Maybe the streak details. We'll see. Part of me kind of likes a little less streak details. But let's keep playing around. I want to crank it up to see if I can get any more to pop up. Woo! There's a good bit. So let's crank it down some. Let's maybe bring up the exposure slightly. And maybe crank down the intensity a little bit so we still have some of it showing up. It's just not as bright. Let's go with that for now. Hit save. And let's just see what we got. Alright, let's zoom out. See what we got. Cool. Let's get that one. Yeah, I'm really thinking that top one I'm gonna leave alone and maybe do a little, like I may leave that one, but get rid of this one entirely and just do it like that. Let's see. Let's go back into Onric or Oniric, however you want to say it. And the good thing is that we're dealing with layers, so I mean they're, you know, they're non-destructive, so I can always turn them on, off, throw a mask on them, do all kinds of stuff, move them around if I need to. So I just want to get that one streak at the bottom now. Well, actually, there's kind of two streaks, but we'll see. Let's go to our mask. I may select this one and this one just to see if I can even get them to pop up. Crank up that exposure and threshold. And go back to streaks. Crank up the exposure again. There we go. Maybe bring down the intensity just a little bit. Something like that. Hit save. Wasn't actually planning on doing that. I was planning on going to the white one and doing something with it. But now that we're here, might as well, right? Might as well. And now let's do that one more time to get this one. All right. I may pause this in between load times. That way your experience is quicker. Go back to mask. Highlight that little area. Hit apply. And crank up the exposure. Oh, well, make sure first of all we've got it set to streak. So I bet that's going to be a really big streak now. There we go. May raise the radius on it and decrease threshold slightly. I don't know, I may play with the streak detail and maybe light dispersion. Let's see. That's cool. Let's do that. Hit save. I like doing all of this, but part of me feels like if it's a huge distraction from the lightsaber, then maybe I'll just get rid of them, which would mean I would have spent all this time for no reason, and that's no bueno. But sometimes you just gotta play with it to figure it out, you know? Alright. Zoom out some. I mean, it's a pretty cool effect. I mean, if I take all of them away, I mean, I don't know if that's going to end up being a little bit more dynamic or what. But I tell you what, since we got them all there, we can play with it some more. What I think I may do, let me just look at it without them and with them. It's possible I may group them all together, Control G, and tone it down just a tad bit, like 75%. And let me just look at it. 75, 100. Go back to 75. Let me just go see if it'll let me cycle back and forth between the two real quick. While I'm playing around with that, I do want to go back into, what is it? This smoke layer that we had. And I have it set to screen, but I may play around with some of these other settings like color dodge. I don't want to mess around with it too much because I don't want to affect the overall, you know, picture. I'm just curious that if I changed one to color dodge, if it would make a huge difference. Probably not. I may leave them at screen and like say this one for example because it cuts through the lightsaber. I may make a new layer, Control Shift N, and just call it green color and clip it to the smoke layer. And I may hit normal just so I can see what I'm doing. Hit the eye button to bring up your eyedropper tool. I'm going to sample some of that green, B for brush, and then I'm going to paint over the smoke like this real lightly. And then I'm going to change the blending mode to whatever looks good. I'm literally just kind of scrolling through. Like color dodge makes the smoke pop up a little bit better. So does vivid light, which might be the better option. Color dodge is pretty cool, but I feel like it's too much. Maybe. I'm telling you, man, decisions are hard. Let's do one vivid light like that, and then maybe we could do Control J, copy that layer, bring it down to our next smoke layer, and then right click, clipping mask, set it to it, and maybe paint some of this smoke down here, kind of that greenish color. Now I just realized that my brush is like at 100% opacity, so I do kind of want to change that. Click that pin pressure sensitivity, bring it down to like 15%, and then kind of lightly paint some of the green that's on there, that's being affected. What I may do is, since I duplicated that exactly, I may erase some of that green out and then just lightly paint the green back in this area. And heck, I may do the same thing here. Just completely erase that green. And then kind of paint it back loosely in this area here. And then let me go back to color dodge and see if that looks cool. I do like that. I do like that. Let's do that. That's a little bit more of the smokiness that I think I want. And what I may do, because this glow up here is kind of bothering me, I may see if I throw in like a darkening. I'm just going to make a new layer, call it darken. Like a darken layer, and I'm just going to paint with a black brush kind of up in this area up here. Just painting with a black brush, kind of darkening some of this area. You know, and maybe changing that to either overlay or soft light. If that kind of helps take care of a little bit of this. Yeah, I feel like that's helping out a little bit. This overall tone that we have. Because I do kind of want it to look a little bit darker. Something like that. If I go back to this, there we go. Part of me almost wonders if we should add like some particles kind of coming up from the bottom. I don't want to like completely overthink this, but it could be really cool. Let's go back to our color lookup. And I may take these two and drag them to the top and just see what it looks like when I do that. I mean, it definitely makes it more contrasting for sure. And my computer's making that weird noise. It's tough, man. These decisions are kind of tough to make. What if I take selective color and bring it all the way up to the top? I don't know. Here's what I'm kind of thinking. I'm wondering if this is kind of bugging me. Maybe keep that one, but this one I could eliminate. Because again, I don't really want anything to take away from the lightsaber too much. But I do want to add some like flareage in there. So I'm just kind of wondering how I do it, or how I'd like to do it. Let me go behind Jake real quick, and I may create like a little hotspot layer, create a new layer, and I'm going to name it HS for hotspot. And with a white brush, I'm going to just lightly paint behind him and just see if that makes him pop a little bit, if we like it like that, or if we want to change it. Almost like he has a little bit of a spotlight on him. The problem is if we do that, is that taking away from the background too much? Maybe I can erase some of the side of it. And change it to like overlay there. And I might even do another layer above all of it, like right at the top of this group, and name it glow, like just a little general glow up top, like right up in this area. Kind of do something like that, like a little glow. It's not something I intended to do, but it could add something to the image. I wonder what happens if I take these away when I do that. Not much. I'm probably going to tone that down a little bit and erase the bottom half. Well, not paint in, erase. Sometimes Photoshop acts really weird and it won't let me do what I want it to do. Or at least my version does. Let's erase this. All right. What I think I may do with that glow there is go ahead and hit generate again and have that overall glow. That might kind of tie it together some. We'll see. One thing I do want to do is I want to with the mask, paint out this entirely and then invert it. So if I do that and then hit invert, should get everything else. Then hit apply. There we go. And then it's just like a very subtle glow effect. I could probably bump up the exposure a little bit. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. And let's just hit save. See what that does. Alright, let's back up. Sometimes it helps my eyes if I can back up and look at the image from a distance a little bit. Almost wonder if I played around with some of this hue and saturation just to see what it would look like if it were like a different color and all that stuff, but I think we're good with what we got. Just trying to ask myself, what do I think is missing from this image? That glow on his neck seems a little hot, so I might tone it down just a little bit. Or actually I might just hide the whole thing and then just paint it in a little bit, like right here. So one more time, I think I might play with a selective color. You know, just kind of see what we can do with some of these tones here. I mean, I don't want to do it too much, but let's play with these greens. Yeah, maybe changing that green to a little bit more of a darker green could really make it pop out some more. And then bringing out some of those colors to make that smoke pop out more could be really awesome. Ooh, that's interesting. Playing around with all the different colors on here. And finally, let's play with these. Let's back up, see what it's like before, after. What I may do is just decrease that to like 50. And I may end up taking it into Lightroom to see what other fun things we can try around with it. So let me open up Lightroom real quick. One thing I may try while Lightroom is pulling up is playing around with some of the highlights. If I crank these highlights up really high and then double click on my curves layer, play with these blend if options, I can kind of make like the biceps and the shoulder muscles stick out a little bit more, so I could like bring this little gauge down to here, then hold the Alt key to split it so it'll fade a little bit better, and then I can, I can lower the opacity if I need to, hit OK, and then hide that layer, and with a white brush kind of gently paint it back on. Little things like that, kind of make its muscles pop out some. Let's see, let me delete it, come back. Yeah. Let's see. There's Jake from the other one. Let me save what I got real fast. Let's hit, see, Control Shift Alt W to bring out our export options. I may hit this embed color, JPEG. Oh, actually, you know what? No, let's not do that because it's not even 2 gigs yet. It's like 1.55 gigs, so it's probably small enough to where we can still bring it into Lightroom. Alright, so I feel like something's kind of missing from this image. So it's like I played with the smart filter. I think I'm going to leave it back on the way it was so that he's in focus. One thing that I saw, I may use another one of my stock images, is I may take this Stormtrooper and put him in the corner over here, turn him around and kind of blur him out enough to where you can kind of see the gun slightly. Just because I feel like, even though I like this whole rule of third thing, but I feel like maybe there could be something over here. Like I said before, with the hand reaching up or something, I don't know. But I want to play with that for a second, just kind of see what it's like to make that work. So real quick, I'm going to try to, well, I say quickly. It may not be as quick as I want it to be, but I'm going to try to quickly cut this guy out. So I got my pen tool. I'm just going to kind of get the basics here because it's going to be blurred out, so you're not really going to see a whole lot of detail in it anyway. So if I do a somewhat crummy job, that's okay. And there we go. Let's do this. Bring this up and around. Kind of get the scope. At least, you know, something that makes it seem like, hey, this is a gun. Kind of bring it around there. Get this main part. Just kind of cut through some of these details. Get this highlight all the way up there, around the helmet. And let's just bring it around like that. So I don't think I'm going to get anything more than that in the shot. So let's just go ahead and quickly cut him out like that. Actually, I am going to get probably this part right underneath here. Kind of dotting my way through this image. And it'll probably make more sense here in a moment. Once I get it all cut out. Alright, cool. Very good. Let's do that. Right click, make selection. We can keep it at 1.4 because I don't think it's going to matter in the end. And I'm going to go ahead and hit my mask to mask it out. There we go. And another thing I'll probably do too is just go ahead and rename it as like Stormtrooper. And right click, convert that into a smart object. And then let's see, let's drag this into our image with Jake. I really hope this works. And then edit, transform, flip horizontal. All right, we're going to bring it this way. Now, obviously, the perspectives are horribly off. However, we can probably take it and at least, whoops, come on now. Select that layer, Control T to manipulate it. There we go. Get like his head and shoulder at about his width there. And then I'm holding my Alt key down to kind of like resize. Nope, just kidding. Alt and Shift key. It changes on me. I don't know why. To make it a lot bigger. Well, at least a lot bigger all the way to the point of where it reaches the bottom. And let's bring it all the way over here. Like off to the side. Hit OK. And I'm going to bring this. Actually, you know what? I might be able to keep it right there. And let's see. If I take it, because I might need to do a little color correction on it. Let's see, maybe play with the midtones first. I can always add like a orange, not an orange, a green highlight to him to make him glow a little bit more. Playing around with some of these tones here, especially the blacks, to make him feel like he's supposed to be there. Let's keep playing. Let's keep playing. Maybe it brings the whites up a little bit more since they have a bit more highlight in them. Turn my phone off there. And then let's see. We probably wouldn't be quite in focus because Jake is the focus. So let's, and I tell you what, I'm going to turn off my glows for a second. Here we go. And I'm going to, and now that I've done that, it might make all the difference. Take that Stormtrooper, go to Filter, Blur Gallery, Field Blur, and we're going to blur. Let's see. We might only do, let me move my floating head here so you can see it. We might only do well, less than we did before. That way you can still kind of make out that it's a Stormtrooper. Let's do either 30 or 25. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say 30. May add a little bit of bokeh there. I don't normally want my bokeh to be more than what my blur is. That's just, I don't know, that's just a thing. And it doesn't really make a huge difference, so. I mean, I could, but. Here we go. Let's just, let's go with that. I don't know, I kind of like 25 because I do like having a little bit of detail in there. I'm like really thinking hard about this. 25, I'm going with it. Let's hit OK. And what I may do is, now that I have that Stormtrooper in here, I may take some of the smoke that was above him and bring it below the Stormtrooper. Actually, let's go back. All of this smoke that's here, bring it down here, maybe. That way it's kind of like in front of the gun. Kind of gives it a little bit more, you know. And then if I add any more smoke, what I may do is this layer right here, I may take it, Control J, duplicate it, drag it up to kind of back where it was, and blur this out once I maybe make it a little bit bigger. Let's go to Filter. Whoops. Yeah, Photoshop might need a second to think there. And honestly, I might just do that same blur gallery and apply it to the smoke. And hit OK. Wow, this is turning out to be a lot longer of a composite than I thought it was going to be. Oh, just the ideas keep flowing. And so I keep going. All right, so let's turn some of these on and see if we want to keep any of them. Like, I kind of like that. I don't know. Well, I think now, too, that we've done all this, we might need to redo them. Redo some, not all of them. Like that can stay. That, we may get rid of that because of where it's at now. Those can probably still stay. I may just, because it's giving it some depth and dimension. So I'm going to erase that one, maybe erase this one because it's, you know, covering them up. That I'm going to erase. This I may keep. And this one I may just kind of paint that one out like that. Bring my floating head back over. Whoa, hello. There we go. Let's see. Let's go back up here one more time and go back to our extension of Oniric. Hit generate again. I think adding that Stormtrooper made me feel a bit better. Alright, let's see. Let's play around with our mask again. And get this little area up here. And hit apply. Just kind of see what happens when we start cranking up the exposure and the threshold. I may go back to streaks for a second just to see what it was like. No, I'm going to keep it back at diffuse. And crank that radius down. Way down. Right about there, I think it's probably good. Hit save. Okay, so one thing that just hit me, I don't know why my Stormtrooper is like way back here. He probably needs to be way up here. Like right there. And then I probably need to do a couple more things to blend him in. Although, like, you know, he's kind of color corrected there. It's just that technically he's in the background instead of the foreground. Although he kind of looks like he's in the foreground there. He's technically not, but so maybe I need to take Jake here and actually bring Jake down some more. Like right here. That way he's behind the smoke. I'm trying to think of what I just put him in front of though. Ah, I see. Let's take some of this, that hot spot there, and bring it down below the Stormtrooper. There we go. And maybe bring this vignette down a little bit too. Sorry, I'm backing up because every time I do something like that, it kind of messes with it a little bit. So I like this vignette here, but not around Jake. So what I may just do is find Jake's layer, hold the control, click on it so I can highlight him, go up to this vignette, and add a mask on that vignette. Hit Control I to invert that mask, That way it doesn't show up on Jake here. Now I could paint on that mask a little bit white, so I could maybe fade it in some, get some dark in there, but not a whole lot. And that way we still have like some smoke in the foreground, giving it some depth. Like something felt off and I was like, I need to fix that. So let's keep that there. I wonder if we need to crank this up even more. Probably not. What I may do with this smoke layer is hide it. I might, just hide it all together. Nope, just kidding. I'm going to keep it just like that, the way it was. Let's see. And if I duplicate it a little bit, I might merge these two together. Change it back to screen. Throw a mask on it. And paint it back in over here, perhaps. Kind of something like that. Nope, I'm just kidding. I'm going to take that out. I might back up because I liked it the way it was. Alright, so one thing I'm thinking about doing right now is making his eyes pop out just a tiny bit more. So I might just go right, oh, actually that's not Jake, this Jake layer right here. Make a new layer, call it eyes, hit OK. Get my black and white brush out, decrease the size a good bit, zoom in really close, come over this way, and then with a white brush, literally just kind of paint over the tiny reflections in his eyes. Maybe change it to like overlay, color dodge, something like that. And that way it's just a little bit of a spark. I could even double tap on that layer and then play with these blend if options to kind of blend it in some. But just something enough to kind of make the eyes have a little extra, very, very subtle pop to them. And then let's see. And then also the gun definitely needs, the Stormtrooper definitely needs to have a highlight on it. So there's our Stormtrooper. Let's throw in a new layer, call it green highlight. Clip it, hit OK. I'm going to keep it on normal so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to use my eyedropper tool to sample some of this green. And with a brush at 100% flow, uncheck that, 100% opacity. I am going to lightly go around the edge of this gun like this. Of all the areas I think it needs a highlight. And then I'm going to change the blending mode in just a moment to something different. Uh-oh. See, I'm going to go right down here alongside the arm. And on the inside of the arm, there should be a highlight. And that's where I might change my flow back down to like, 5% or so, and then lightly kind of paint on the inside. So I can, if I make any errors, it's so light that it's, kind of forgivable. There we go. Awesome. And let's do the same thing for the rest of this gun. Let's go back to 100%. Let's go around this. Right there. On the inside. Right there. Kind of going on the inside of the gun here. Really getting it like a strong highlight. Maybe not right there, though. I can erase that part. Let's see, where's the rest of him? There it is, right there. So maybe his hand can have a little bit of a highlight. There we go. May go back down some and just kind of paint in this part. This part can have a little bit of a highlight on it. Maybe this part can too. Right here can have a highlight. Kind of just looking at the highlights on the gun and what they would have on it if they were actually being shown. Alright, so let's change that blending mode to something that looks good. We could keep it vivid light, not pin light, either vivid or hard light. I'm going to keep it on linear for a second. Linear, vivid, hard. I'm going to go down to, what was it? Hard light and vivid light are very similar, but I think I'm going to do hard light. And actually I want to save that so I don't lose it. And the only other thing I can think of that I might want to try to do golly, all of my color grading that I did on Jake, I mean, I might change because he looks like he kind of blends in a little bit better there than he does here. So actually, let me just revisit this. Actually, yeah, that'd probably be a good smart thing to do, to revisit this, because in the beginning we didn't have all these warm color tones, and now we do. So it'd be a smart idea to kind of revisit some of this. Might just do that in -1. Playing around with these selective color settings. And then let's see, let's do before, after, before. Heck, I may take that selective color and bring it down to like 50%, because honestly, like, it looks good kind of without it. Maybe even take it down to like 20%. let's go back up here. I'm going to check on my glows real quick to see. I mean, honestly, like these glows may be what's kind of distracting for me. So I wonder what would happen if I toned them down or just got rid of them altogether. Because the one thing I said that I wanted to do was not distract from the lightsaber. And I'm afraid that's kind of what I'm doing. I love the flares though. So it's a hard toss-up between what I want to do there. So what I think I might do is I might take that little flare right there. Ooh, hello. And maybe barely mark some of it out. Maybe just keep it right about in there. My computer's just like making that kind of noise. Yeah, I hate to do it, but I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to get rid of that glow, and that glow. And I may do something different with them, or I may just hide them altogether so that they're not distracting. Because honestly, that's what they kind of are right now. So let me go back. If I go to my background, and I could, I'm going to duplicate it because I don't want to accidentally delete just in case. So I'm going to do that. Use my little hit J hotkey for my spot heal brush, and then just kind of paint it out. Oh, and then I guess also for, where is it? One of these glows. Maybe not that one. I kind of like that one. If I take, oh, where did it go? Here it is. If I take this glow out. There we go. Alright, so after looking at this for a little bit, I think I'm going to play around with the background one more time. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that background and go back to this one. I'm going to disable briefly the smart filters, and I might go back and reapply them in a different way. So if I go here, oh well, actually, let me clear them. Clear the smart filters. There we go. I'm going to go back to filter, blur gallery, fill blur. And I can't remember how much I did it the first time, but I'm going to move my little face here. There we go. Maybe, I can't remember if I did like 25, 30, 50, what it was, so I'm just going to play around with it. 25. I think 25 is good because it's blurred, but you still get a little bit of detail. and I like that. So, and I might keep, like I said before, the light bokeh are roughly around 25, and the bokeh color around 25, just because. Also, just realized that I turned off my light, so I turned my light back on. Let's see. All right, so I think 25 might be okay. Let's see what it's like at 35. The goal I'm trying to get here is that I want the depth of field for the Stormtrooper and the depth of field to the background to be close. Like, I don't want the background to be too blurred out. I still want to be able to see some of the detail, even though it's blurred a pretty good bit. I think 35 is probably where I want it, but I'm going to try it at 30, not 300. Computer is acting crazy. There we go. Let's do 30. I think that's probably good. And let's just hit OK there now. All right, definitely liking this a lot better. The only thing that I think I might want to do left is take Jake, his layer, and maybe add just a little bit of that effect, that blur effect to him as well. So I'm going to go to Filter, Blur Gallery. I think I'm going to do Fill Blur. I could do Fill Blur or I could do Iris Blur. Either one might work okay. But let's just see. I'm going to actually try Iris because I think it might be a little bit easier to do it with Iris Blur. And basically with Iris Blur, what we can do is take this little center point here, and the center point is basically, the focal point. However, anything that is within this little inner range is in focus, and then this is basically your effect. So like if I'm at 15 pixels, this is 0, this is 15, and there's the blur transition in between. So I can make this a lot wider, and as long as my image is in between these 4 dots, then it's in focus. So I could do something like this to where basically everything would be in focus with the exception of what's outside of this circle. And so if I think I might be okay with that. Like if I kind of do this right here to where basically this is the main focal point and it just kind of blurs out, that could probably work. And 15 is probably a good radius to have that, because you can kind of see how we go from sharp in this area and it goes down. It's still sharp, but when I hit the check, how it fades. Well, hopefully if it'll do it, how it fades to blurry throughout that area. And so I may take this in just a little bit, but not a whole lot. If it'll let me. Uncheck, check it again. There we go. I may scoot it over just a tiny bit. That might work. Let's just hit OK and just see what it looks like. Another way that we could try this, besides the iris blur, would be to go to field blur, and I'm actually going to try it that way real quick, just to kind of test it out, see what it's like. So I'm going to go up to Filter, Blur Gallery, Field Blur, and I'm going to play around with this. Now, you can set your anchor points, right? And so, like, say I want his face to be in focus, so I can drag this up to his face, take the pixel radius, bring it down to 0, because they want 0% blur. So we want that in focus. You know, his arm can be in focus if we want to. Actually, you know what? Let's just make this whole arm in focus. So all the way down to his hand. Now, naturally, it probably wouldn't be like that. You would probably have some blur. But we, for the sake of argument, are going to keep it all in focus. And then maybe, you know, right here by his shoulder, do that 15%. Maybe the same thing up here. Keep it at 15%. Or I say 15, maybe like 7. Just kind of fade it out gradually. And maybe bring that one out some. Do another one here. 15, 15, 15. Something like that. Maybe even out here. So with this, you can actually have a little bit more control. Kind of. There we go. And this one, I may bring it down to like 10%. Maybe scoot this out, bring it down to 10% as well. Same here. Same here. Something like that. Kind of taking a step back, looking at it from that angle. And then let's hit OK. So we can look at a before and after. There we go, before. And now it's got to reapply it. And after, yeah. And let's see, for the heck of it, let's throw in some fire embers, because you can never really go wrong with some fire embers. Just throw them in there. I can imagine, though, if he just cut some people up, maybe there'd be some fire embers in there. So let's pull these up in Adobe Bridge, get a good look at some of them. I wonder if we can actually pull some up that were shot like at 70 millimeters, because then we could actually get a better idea of what they would look like at 70 millimeters. Like some of these, some of those. And I'm more subtle than a lot. So I would probably just try to take the one that had the least amount, probably like that one. And I may flip it, transform, horizontal, boom, something like that. Did I just stretch it by accident? Let me see. There we go. And go change that to screen mode. Boom. And there you go. Let's see, I might move that over right about, maybe something like that. Maybe even move it down some. See, part of me doesn't really know if I want to keep it like that. Like if I want to bring it kind of low. If I even want to have them in there at all. I don't know. If I do, then I'll probably have to add another oniric glow to it. I'm going to try these real quick and drag them and drop them in, just to see what they're like. And the same with this one, perhaps. And let's see, let's take those two fire embers, drag them all the way back down to where this other one was. See, so that first, well, actually, let's take them all out for a second. Just look at them. That one feels like it could be too much. And that feels like it could be too little. Sometimes I just have to feel like I look at it at a distance and see how I feel about it at a distance. Like that could work, honestly. Just don't know if I want to move it. I may just take it and duplicate it a few times. Ooh, hello. Where are those embers? Right here. Duplicate it, move some over here. Duplicate it again, bring some over here. Like so. What I could do is just merge all those together as one, right click, merge layers. Once you select them all, go back to screen. Here we go, something like that. Maybe I could throw a mask on there, get rid of that one right there. I don't know. I mean, like, I like the fire embers, and I could probably make them glow and look really cool. I just feel like they might be a little bit of a distraction from the lightsaber, and I just don't want that lightsaber to have any distractions. I want it to be very much the focal point. What could be really cool, though, take out the fire embers, and let's go up to this lightsaber here. And in my stock images, I'm going to go over to, what is it? The particle effects. I've got some raw exchange particle effects. And I may just use some of these brushes here. And double click that. And let's see, let's make a new layer. Go particles. Do it on white. Let's make sure our brush is flow 100%. And I'm going to scroll down. Go down to this right here. Let me click it one time just to see what it's like. There we go. Alright, so I could literally take this brush. Okay. And since my brush is basically doing this right now, I want to change the brush settings. So if I go to Window, Brush Settings, and I'm going to drag my face back over here. Brush Settings, we're going to go to Shape Dynamics, click that box, double click in it. You can change the size, the jitter, the angle, the roundness, scatter, how much you want it to scatter. Double click on that. Then you can change how much it scatters, the count, all kinds of stuff. And then when you start to brush, it does all kinds of crazy stuff. So now that we've done that, we can change the flow back to like 10%, change that pin pressure sensitivity on, and just kind of lightly maybe paint in some particle effects here. And it could also be very cool just to, you know, throw in an actual image. Let me see what it looks like if I just do that. Raw exchange image. Let's go here. Let's view that in Adobe Bridge. Some of these foreground kind of blurred out. They might be kind of cool. And it may not even need this. I'm literally just kind of looking at some of the options here. I think it might be kind of cool though to have some of this and some of this in the image, and like the light, the yellow light up at the top can probably have a little spectacle light. So if I change this to screen and then bring that right up here. Like that. Hit OK. I'll have to fix it here in a moment. And then right here, change this one to screen as well. And it could probably go along the blade of the lightsaber just a little bit. And I could probably change the size of that slightly. And I may even slightly duplicate it and bring it down to the bottom some and hit OK. So let me hide that with a black mask. Let me hide this one with a black mask, and this one can actually stay open. I'm going to change it back to normal though for a second, so I can pull up my brush, put a white mask on it, and with that black brush paint off the outer edge. So if I turn that flow back up, uncheck that, I can actually paint this edge out so it won't show up. It'll just kind of fade in, hopefully. Maybe change the flow back and just kind of gradually fade it in like that. And now change it back to screen. And essentially do the same thing for everything else. And for that, like, see, I could take, make a new layer, Control-Shift-N, and we'll just call it yellow color and clip it to that layer, because essentially I'm going to hit OK. Hit the eye dropper tool, eye short key, and take that color, B for brush, paint this yellow in, which it looks like it's just doing all yellow. But I'm going to change it to maybe not overlay. But soft light or overlay. Either one of those could possibly work. And do the same thing for this one. So for this, I can use my white brush and paint in just a little bit of the particle effect around the lightsaber. Same thing for this bottom half, kind of paint it in a little bit, and make a new layer, call it green color, clip it, hit OK. I'm going to hit Control-J to duplicate that layer, drag it in between, right click, create clipping mask. Do the same thing, hit my eye hotkey to pull up the eye dropper, click on that green color, B for brush. I'm going to go ahead and change it to overlay, kind of paint over that you know, that that color. Same thing here. I'll paint over this a little bit. And then I'm going to change it, let's see, to overlay to see if that makes a huge difference or not. Or change it to soft light. Let's see which one we like better. I mean, they're both pretty subtle in differences. So one's just a little bit brighter than the other. And I could turn them all off, and you can see it without it. Turn them all back on, and you can see it with it. It's just a very, very subtle difference there. Okay, kind of adds a little bit of a, again, atmosphere to the image. And I really could play with this so much longer, but I think we're pretty much done with this image. I'm going to save it. Going to hit, Control S there to save it. Alright, so we have this image uploaded into Lightroom. And so now I'm going to play around with some presets here that I've got downloaded. If it'll let me do that. Alright, so I'm going to scroll through some of these real quick. Let's see. I may take that one, try to open it up in Photoshop, and then another one, and try to open it up in Photoshop as well. And these are all presets that I got from Alias EDU. It's actually really, really, really awesome digital artist masterclass that I took 2 years ago from Auntie Karpinen. Really, really awesome. Let's see, I'm going to take those. Really, all I'm doing in Lightroom there is, these are presets, but you can kind of look at the presets and see where they've played around with some of the tones, played around with, like, you know, shadows, highlights, things like that. So, I mean, these are all technically things we can do in Photoshop. They're just kind of like, I guess you could view them as filters if you really wanted to. So I'm going to take it and kind of do some blending. So I might copy that one and paste it into here and change it to like 50% or so. That way I kind of have the best of both worlds there. That's too green, and that might be too not. And might just combine them together and throw that back in our ultimate composite here. Whoa, what happened there? Oh, I see. Okay. Let's do it this way. Let's back up. Let's copy that into here. Maybe. I kind of like this one because it has a little bit more yellowish, greenish tones. And I may bring a little bit of the green at the bottom back into this one by changing the opacity 25% on my brush and just kind of painting it back in this area. Actually, just realized I was doing that wrong. Kind of hide it. No, black brush. There we go. There we go. we go. Let's get rid of some of this stuff right here. There we go. Something perhaps like that. Honestly, I really kind of like it dark like that, to be honest with you. I really do. So I may just put a lot of that back the way that it was. Something like that. And let's see what that does. If I put it back in here, if it's going to completely mess with the color, it does. I don't know why that happens. Alright, I'm going to add some final touches to this. I played around with it for a little bit and I'm just like, I'm just going to leave it alone. I'm going to go with this one preset that I used. And I'm going to simply just duplicate that layer, Control J. I'm going to go to Filter, Other, High Pass. I'm going to sharpen the image. I'm going to leave it at a 2 pixel radius. Hit OK. I'm going to zoom in just to kind of look at it for a second. Go to Blending Mode, Vivid Light. And you can kind of look, especially at the skin here. Just see like a before and after. Make it real nice and sharp. And, you know, I might do one little thing. I might take the color with the eyedropper tool. If I can get it here. Photoshop's wanting to misbehave. There we go. Grab that green, or grab a green. Do like a new layer. Call it eyes. I may try to see what it looks like if I add just like one little glint of green in his eyes. Maybe bring that flow way down. And just kind of paint like a little glimmer of green in his eye. And see, change that to... could essentially change it to like overlay and just duplicate it a bunch of times. I think I kind of like that effect. I kind of like that. We'll just keep that. And then I'm going to Control Shift Alt E, duplicate it one last time. I'm going to go to Filter, Noise, Add Noise. And this is just going to kind of tie the image together a little bit. If you zoom in real close, you can really see what it's doing here, especially between the background and like the face. So you can go uniform, you can go mono Gaussian. I think I'm probably going to go Gaussian at like 2%. Yeah, there we go. Hit OK. Zoom out. Yeah, I like that. We're going to go with that. That's it, guys. That is the walkthrough for this Star Wars image. Sorry, my brain was kind of all over the place, but I was kind of figuring it out along with you. But hopefully that was kind of helpful. Yeah, so use those Star Wars Galaxy Edge stock images, create your own stuff with it. Love to see it. And I think I'll try to include this PSD, as part of it. That way, if you guys want to play around with that, go for it. So have fun, and hope this is beneficial. Let me know. Would love to chat about it, and guess we'll see you next time. Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Don't forget to hit the notification button so you can stay up to date on all of my latest videos. Be sure to leave a comment on what you'd like to see me work on next. Hope to see you guys next time, and again, thanks for watching.